But what happened to a state that was close and now is a state is crazy left? Joining us now from Marshall, Minnesota, is a former House Minority Leader for Minnesota, Marty Seifert. So, Marty, very simple question. What happened, man? What are we looking at here?
Well, Bill, I think one thing that people don't understand about Minnesota is close. The Minnesota House of Representatives has 134 people. There's 67 Democrats and 67 Republicans. The Senate has 67 members. They have 34 Democrats and 33 Republicans. It couldn't be any closer. We have 8 members of Congress. 4 are Democrats, 4 are Republicans. With Tim Walz as her running mate, Kamala Harris got a little over 51%. So if you look at the real statistics in Minnesota, we are a tied state with a tiny bit of lean to the Democrats. But because 59% of our population lives in the 7-county metro, it does tilt our statewide races more towards the liberal side, and we hold no statewide office. We haven't won a statewide election since 2006, 20 years ago. Tim Pawlenty got elected by a plurality. When I was in the legislature, I was elected in 96. We had a moderate Republican governor, Arnie Carlson, for 8 years. We had Jesse Ventura, you might remember him.
Sure.
An independent for 4 years, and then Tim Pawlenty, a moderate to conservative Republican, for 8 years. So I never served with a Democrat in Minnesota as the governor. I had 2 Republicans and an independent for the 14 years I was in the legislature. Now, you said what's happened. Minnesota has, like a lot of states, it's become more polarized. We used to have a lot of split tickets. I won my House seat the first year, the same year that Bill Clinton carried my seat, and I had a Democrat congressman carry my seat. But people split their ticket for me as a Republican. So I have Southwest Minnesota in my area. So if you look at Minnesota just from an analytical point of view, the loud have gotten a lot of attention, but I would say the silent majority, that the butcher, baker, and candlestick maker that mind their own business, that work hard, raise their kids, they don't have time to go out and blow whistles and scream at people. But we do have a lot of concerns in Minnesota. We have a deep humanity here. The death of that young man in Minneapolis is disturbing to anyone who watched it. And I'm Republican, but I'm not dumb. And I know there's a fine line between those two sometimes. But at the end of the day, we do have to have some humanity, and this has to be toned down. I watched Tom Homan's press conference this morning, and I think Tom Homan is not leaving the state, he said, until I have this figured out. And his talks with Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison and our public safety commissioner were very, I think, very, what I want to say, constructive.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to the specifics. ICE is changing a lot of the things, but here's my analysis. And I've been in Minnesota many times, and up in Rainy Lake, up north. And what you're saying is right, that the rural part of Minnesota is traditional conservative, and the big city dominance in the Minneapolis, St. Paul is very liberal. But when you have a stranglehold on the messaging, which Walz and Fry and your crazy attorney general and the Minneapolis media, which is all left wing, all right, when you have that kind of a stranglehold, that is the impression that gets out. And you mentioned Mr. Preddy, the Minnesotan who was shot down and killed. Well, he was the victim of agitation by the far left, in my opinion. Would you disagree with that?
Well, I look at it from this perspective, and I haven't studied that deeply, but at the end of the day, we have a young man whose dad was shot multiple times. Was he radicalized by people? I don't know. I think a lot of people in Minneapolis got caught up in feeling constitutional rights were being abused. And it's not all paid agitators. I have people that I know personally who went out because they felt that it was just getting over the top on how things were happening. Now, ICE operations, in my opinion, happened here and in all other 49 states under Barack Obama, as you just outlined here a few minutes ago. And it was done professionally and quietly. And I think announcing the cavalry's coming with uniforms and press conferences and all this, there's better ways of executing the laws.
Everybody knows that the footprint of the federal government might have been lessened. But if you're going to tell me that a 37-year-old guy who kicks the backlight out of an ICE truck 8 days ago and breaks his rib in a process, and then seeks out a confrontation with ICE agents while carrying a loaded gun. If you're going to tell me that's rational Minnesota conduct, it is not, Marty. It's not.
I'm not rationalizing that, Bill. I'm just saying that.
Just so you know,
at the end of the day, what we watched on
There's no end
TV
of any,
in Minnesota was
no
disturbing.
end of any days, okay? There's no end of any days. That man and the woman before him, Miss Good, all right, are the victims of this far, far left demonization of the federal government. That's what they're victims of. And anybody who disputes that doesn't want to know the truth.
Well, I think your point is well taken, Bill, that if you want to avoid conflict, you don't walk into conflict with a loaded gun. I think people all understand that. I think this will all get litigated as time goes on motivations and time frames and so forth. But anyone who watched the film is disturbed by it, whether they're conservative, whether they're independent, whether they're Democrat, whatever.
That. We're not callous here, and we have called a month ago for a lighter approach by the federal government. Marty, thanks very much. Good to see you. Stay well.
Appreciate it.